Your brain is constantly making silent decisions without you noticing. Even as you focus on something important, a background process is running that asks whether continuing is worth the effort or if switching to something easier would feel better. This calculation happens countless times each day, shaping your habits, attention, and productivity. Over time, it quietly trains your brain to avoid effort, not because you are lazy, but because your nervous system is optimized to conserve energy. In a world filled with instant entertainment, this ancient survival mechanism now works against you. At its core, the brain operates like an energy economist. Every action is evaluated based on effort versus reward. Tasks that demand focus and patience are flagged as costly, especially if the payoff is uncertain or delayed. Meanwhile, activities that provide immediate stimulation with minimal effort are approved instantly. This system evolved to keep humans alive in harsh environments. But modern technology exploits it relentlessly. Endless scrolling, processed food, and constant notifications are not accidents. They are engineered to hijack the brain's reward circuitry. Deep inside the brain sits a structure responsible for motivation and drive, powered by a chemical messenger often misunderstood: dopamine. Dopamine is not about pleasure itself, but about anticipation. It fuels the desire to seek rewards, pushing you toward whatever promises the next hit of stimulation. This is why unpredictable rewards, like social media feeds or notifications, feel so compelling. Each interaction might deliver something interesting, so the brain stays locked in pursuit mode. When the brain is exposed to too many effortless dopamine triggers, it adapts by becoming less sensitive. This process, known as receptor downregulation, dulls motivation over time. Activities that once felt engaging now seem exhausting or pointless. Reading, exercising, or working on long-term goals becomes harder, not because those activities changed, but because the brain has recalibrated its expectations. Easy rewards raise the bar so high that meaningful effort no longer feels worthwhile. This explains why excessive stimulation often leads to burnout and apathy. Rather than satisfaction, the brain becomes conditioned to constant novelty, making sustained focus feel uncomfortable. However, the same adaptability that causes this problem also offers the solution. The brain is plastic, meaning it reshapes itself based on repeated behavior. Every choice strengthens certain neural pathways while weakening others. Motivation is not lost, it is redirected. A dopamine reset works by temporarily removing sources of artificial stimulation that overwhelm the brain's reward system. This is not about eliminating dopamine itself, but reducing excessive, low-effort triggers, so sensitivity can return to normal. When overstimulation is reduced, the brain begins to respond again to simpler, effort-based rewards. Tasks that once felt dull gradually regain meaning and satisfaction. The transition phase can be uncomfortable. Restlessness, boredom, and irritability often appear as the brain adjusts to a lower level of stimulation. This discomfort is not failure. It is evidence of recalibration. Many people quit during this phase because they mistake withdrawal for weakness. In reality, this period is when the brain is reorganizing its reward priorities. To make this process effective, high stimulation habits must be identified and temporarily restricted. These are not necessarily things you enjoy most, but things that deliver the strongest reward for the least effort. For many people, this includes social media, short-form videos, junk food, or compulsive online behaviors. Removing them for a defined period forces the brain to seek satisfaction elsewhere. Equally important is replacing these habits with slower, effort-based activities. Reading physical books, cooking meals, walking without distractions. exercising without constant entertainment, journaling, or having uninterrupted conversations all provide delayed but deeper rewards. At first, these activities may feel uninteresting. Over time, however, the brain begins to associate them with fulfillment, releasing dopamine in anticipation of meaningful effort. This highlights the difference between pleasure and satisfaction. Pleasure is immediate, intense, and short-lived. Satisfaction is earned through effort and lasts far longer. Modern life is saturated with pleasure, but starved of satisfaction, leaving many people entertained, yet unfulfilled. Discipline shifts the reward system toward satisfaction, creating motivation that does not depend on constant stimulation. Neuroscience shows that delaying gratification strengthens the brain's higher control centers, responsible for planning and self-regulation. Instant gratification, by contrast, activates more primitive systems tied to impulse and emotion. Each time you choose effort over distraction, you reinforce the neural circuits that support focus and self-control. Over time, discipline stops feeling like resistance and starts feeling natural. As the brain recalibrates, attention span increases, clarity improves, and energy stabilizes. Tasks that once felt overwhelming become approachable. Motivation returns not as forced willpower, but as genuine interest. This shift is not about becoming more disciplined through struggle, but about restoring the brain's ability to find meaning in effort. However, this process is not permanent without maintenance. The brain naturally drifts toward ease unless systems are in place to support discipline. Environment design plays a critical role, making distractions harder to access and productive behaviors easier to start reduces reliance on willpower. Small changes in surroundings can dramatically influence behavior over time. Social influence also matters. Habits spread through proximity. Being surrounded by people who value focus and intentional effort reinforces similar behaviors in your own brain. Discipline becomes easier when it is normalized rather than resisted. At first, discipline may seem like making life harder, but this perspective comes from a brain conditioned to chase easy rewards. On the other side of recalibration, discipline feels lighter than distraction because it leads to confidence, progress, and internal stability. The real difficulty lies not in effort, but in living with constant mental noise and unfulfilled potential. Ultimately, this is about reclaiming control over your attention and motivation. When the brain is no longer driven by endless stimulation, effort becomes rewarding again. The goal is not perfection, but alignment, where actions match intentions and progress replaces guilt. This transformation begins with a single decision to step away from noise and allow the brain to reset. The capacity to enjoy hard things is already within you, waiting to be reactivated.